The rain had started again in New Avalon. It wasn't the heavy kind that flooded streets. It was the soft, glowing rain that always came when the city lights mixed with the mist. Neon signs reflected off the wet roads, and flying drones made quiet humming sounds in the distance. Eli Grant pulled up the collar of his gray jacket and walked faster. It was almost midnight, and he had just finished his shift at the power plant. He was tired, but in a peaceful way. He liked walking home at night when the city felt calm and empty. As he turned down a narrow street, he saw something strange. A young woman was standing under a broken streetlight. The light flickered every few seconds, making her look like she was appearing and disappearing. She wore a long white coat that shimmered in the rain and had silver white hair that almost glowed under the light. Eli slowed down. The woman looked lost. She was holding a small hollow map in her hand, but the device kept flashing and showing static. She turned it again and again, looking confused. Eli cleared his throat softly. "Hey, are you okay, miss? You look like you could use some help." The woman turned her head quickly. Her eyes caught him off guard. They were bright blue, but not like normal human eyes. They seemed to glow faintly from inside, as if tiny lights were moving behind them. I'm trying to reach the Aurora Spire," she said in a calm, soft voice. Her accent was strange, smooth but not from any place Eli knew. "My navigation unit is malfunctioning." Eli smiled kindly. "The spire? That's on the east side. You're walking in the opposite direction. It's not far. I can walk you there if you want. It's not safe this late." She looked at him for a moment, almost studying his face. Then she nodded once. "Thank you. That would be acceptable." They started walking together. The rain fell lightly, tapping on the metal road plates. The woman held her holomap close, though it didn't seem to work. Eli noticed that every time a drone passed above, she would look up as if checking something invisible. To make the walk less quiet, Eli said, "So are you new here? Don't see many people out at this hour." She nodded slightly. "You could say that. I am observing." "Observing?" Eli raised an eyebrow. "Like a tourist?" "Something like that." She smiled faintly. "I study human behavior." He laughed softly. "You picked a good night for that. Most people hide indoors when it rains. I wanted to see how humans act when they believe no one is watching." Her tone was curious, not cold. It reveals truth. Eli thought that was an odd thing to say, but he shrugged. "Well, you're watching the wrong guy then. I'm not very interesting." "That is not true," she said quietly. He looked at her, surprised. "You just met me." She didn't answer, only kept walking. For a moment, the only sound was the soft patter of rain and their footsteps. As they reached the main avenue, neon lights from shops and sky ads reflected in the puddles. A delivery drone flew past, scanning them with a red beam, then moved on. Eli noticed the beam flickered strangely when it passed over the woman, like her body confused its sensors. He frowned. That was odd. These drones usually scan clean. She tilted her head. Perhaps it is defective. Eli shrugged again. He didn't like mysteries, but he didn't want to seem rude. After a few more minutes, the woman spoke again. "May I ask you something?" "Sure," Eli said. "Why did you offer to walk with me?" He smiled. "Because it's late and you looked lost. It's what anyone should do." "Even for a stranger?" He nodded. "Especially for a stranger." She seemed to think deeply about that. "Most people I have observed do not act so easily." Eli laughed gently. "Then maybe you've been observing the wrong ones." They turned onto a quiet road lined with glowing trees, biolights installed by the city. The air was fresh here and the sound of the rain softened. Eli noticed something strange again. Her shadow didn't match perfectly with her movements. It was slightly delayed, like it was following by a fraction of a second. He blinked, unsure if his eyes were tired. He didn't say anything, though. She looked normal, even kind. He just kept walking beside her. As they neared the Aurora Spire, the tallest tower in the city, Eli could see its white surface glowing under the rain. Security drones circled the top. It was a government facility, off limits to regular citizens. He stopped a few meters away. "Here we are. Can't go further than this, I'm afraid." "Restricted zone." The woman turned to him. Her eyes seemed softer now. "You have been very kind, Eli Grant." He froze slightly. "How do you know my name?" She smiled, a calm and strange smile. "I know many things. You have passed the first test." "Test?" he asked, confused. "What test?" But before he could say more, the gates of the spire opened silently. A golden light shone inside and she stepped toward it. Eli took a step back. Wait, what's going on? Who are you? She looked over her shoulder, her hair glowing under the golden light. We will speak again soon. Then the doors closed behind her and the street fell silent again. Eli stood there in the rain, staring at the empty gate. His heart beat faster. The word test echoed in his mind. He finally walked home, trying to convince himself it was just a strange night, that the woman was maybe an off-world scientist or something. But deep down, he felt something different, like that walk had changed his life forever. As he reached his small apartment, he noticed his wristband blinking with a message he didn't remember receiving. The words on the screen glowed softly in blue. Thank you for walking me home, Eli Grant. Phase 2 begins tomorrow. He stared at the words in shock, the rain still dripping from his jacket. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled, but it sounded more like an engine starting in the sky. The next morning, Eli woke up with a strange feeling. He hadn't slept well. The message on his wristband kept flashing in his mind. Phase 2 begins tomorrow. He sat on the edge of his bed, rubbing his eyes. Maybe it had been a dream, he thought. Maybe he imagined the strange woman, the glowing eyes and the golden doors. But when he checked his jacket pocket, he found a small silver chip, thin as paper, smooth as glass, with a soft blue light running through it. He didn't remember putting it there. He placed it on the table and stared at it for a long time. Then, with a sigh, he went to work. At the power plant, things were not normal. His coworkers whispered when he walked in. The security scanner beeped oddly when he passed through. His supervisor, a serious man named Darren Holt, called him into the office. Grant, Darren said, frowning at a screen. Your ID level was updated overnight. You now have clearance to restricted areas. Did you request that? Eli blinked. No, sir. I don't even know how to do that. Darren looked puzzled. Strange. The system says the update came from the Aurora Spire itself. Eli froze. The Spire? Darren nodded. Whatever you did, it impressed someone important. Just don't get yourself in trouble, all right? Eli left the office feeling uneasy. The Spire. That was where the mysterious woman had gone last night. The same woman who somehow knew his name. During lunch, he sat alone in the cafeteria thinking about everything. Then his wristband vibrated again. A small holographic image appeared above it. And there she was. The woman from the night before. Eli Grant, she said in her calm, smooth voice. We meet again. Eli almost dropped the band. What's going on? Who are you really? My name is Leora, she said. Her image glowed faintly. I am part of a group known as the Aurelian Federation. My mission is to study and understand the moral integrity of humanity. Eli frowned. You mean, like aliens? She tilted her head. If that is the human term, yes. We observe new civilizations before contact. We must know if your kind is ready to join us, he stared at her. You're saying I was part of some kind of test? You still are, Leora said softly. You were chosen for your actions, simple, kind, and honest. You offered help without expecting anything in return. Such qualities are rare in the galaxy. Eli rubbed his forehead. I just walked you home. That's not a test. To you, perhaps, she said. But to us it showed something deeper. Empathy without motive. That is the true measure of intelligence. Eli didn't know what to say. He looked around to make sure no one saw him talking to a floating hologram. Why me? He finally asked. Because you represent what we hope still exists in humanity, she answered. Our council must soon decide whether your species is ready for alliance or must remain isolated. He leaned back in his chair. Alliance? With who? You? With thousands of worlds, Leora replied. The Aurelian Federation is an ancient union of intelligent races. We share knowledge and peace, but we only invite those who prove they understand kindness, not just survival. Eli laughed nervously. You're telling me all of humanity's future depends on me walking you home? In a way, she said. You are being observed. Everything you do from now will shape our final report. Eli shook his head. This is insane. But deep inside, he knew it wasn't a dream. He remembered the golden light, her glowing eyes, and how the drones reacted strangely to her. It was real, all of it. That night, Eli returned to his small apartment. He sat near the window, watching the city lights flicker in the rain again. He thought about Leora's words, then suddenly his lights went out. His wristband glowed again, and a bright holographic shape appeared in the center of his room. It was Leora, not as a hologram this time, but almost real. Her eyes were brighter, and her presence filled the room with a calm blue light. "Do not be afraid," she said gently. Eli took a step back. "You're actually here?" She nodded. "I had to speak to you in person. Time is short. Some within our Federation do not want humanity to join us. They believe your kind is too unstable, too emotional." Eli frowned. "And you? What do you believe?" "I believe what I saw," she said. "You helped a stranger. You care about others. That is not weakness. It is strength," he tried to smile. "I don't know if that makes me special." "It does," she said. "You do not realize it, but your species' ability to feel empathy is rare. Most advanced civilizations lose it when they grow too logical." Leora walked slowly around his apartment, touching the edge of a book, the small photo of his family, and a cup of warm tea he had made earlier. "You live simply," she said softly. "You value small things," Eli shrugged. "I guess that's just being human." She turned toward him with a faint smile. "That is exactly what we need to understand." Then she looked more serious. "Eli, there is another test. Tomorrow you will be asked to make a decision, something that may seem small but will matter greatly. Choose with your heart, not with fear." "What kind of decision?" he asked quickly. "You will know when the moment comes." Before he could say more, her form began to fade. "Wait, don't go!" "Leora, what are you—" "I will see you soon," she said. "Do not lose your kindness. That is your greatest power." Then she disappeared, leaving only a faint glow behind. Eli stood there for a long time, staring at the empty space where she had been. His heart was racing. He didn't understand everything, but he knew one thing for sure. Something far bigger than him was happening. The next day, at work, the small decision came. A security officer asked him to cover up a system error that would have made the company look bad. If he agreed, he would be promoted. If he refused, he might lose his job. Eli thought about Leora's words. Choose with your heart, not with fear. He refused to lie. By evening, he was suspended from work. He walked home feeling tired and uncertain, but as he entered his apartment, the lights glowed blue again. Leora's voice echoed softly. "You made the right choice." Eli Grant, humanity has hope. Outside, far beyond the clouds, an enormous shadow moved, a ship the size of a city orbiting quietly above the earth. Inside it, the Aurelian Council waited, their final test almost complete, and one of them whispered, "The human has passed every trial so far. Perhaps kindness truly survives among them." Eli sat down by the window again, unaware that his small acts of honesty and care were changing the fate of his entire planet. The city of New Avalon looked peaceful from above. The tall glass towers glowed in soft blue light, and air shuttles moved like fireflies in the sky. But for Eli Grant, everything had changed. He sat near his apartment window watching the stars. It had been 3 days since he refused to lie at work. He had lost his job, but strangely he didn't feel regret. Every night he expected Leora to appear again. But she didn't. Only silence and the distant sound of rain kept him company. Still, deep inside he felt something was about to happen. That night, as he poured himself a cup of tea, the entire building flickered. Lights dimmed, screens turned blue, and a soft humming filled the air. Then suddenly his window opened by itself, even though it was locked. A beam of gentle golden light entered the room, forming a figure, Leora. She looked different this time. Brighter, more alive, and somehow peaceful. "Eli Grant," she said softly. "It is time." Eli stepped closer. "Time for what?" "For the final decision," she said. "The Aurelian Council has gathered. They will decide whether humanity will join the Federation or remain alone for another century." Eli frowned. "Why me? I'm not a leader or a scientist. I just fix machines." "That is exactly why," she said. "You are real, honest, you act without wanting reward. You are what they need to see." Before Eli could reply, the golden light surrounded him. The floor disappeared under his feet. He felt weightless, as if the world was fading away. When his eyes opened, he was standing on a platform made of glowing glass. Around him stretched the Aurelian starship, vast and silent, floating high above Earth. Through the transparent walls, he could see the planet below turning slowly under the clouds. Dozens of tall, luminous beings stood in a circle. Their bodies shimmered like light moving through crystal. Leora stood beside him, her expression calm but serious. One of the beings stepped forward. Its voice echoed in Eli's mind. "Human Eli Grant, you have been chosen as the representative of your species. Your behavior has been recorded. Your choices have been analyzed." Eli swallowed hard. "I didn't even know I was being tested." "That is the point," the voice replied. "The purest kindness is unplanned." The lights in the chamber shifted to soft blue. The council's leader spoke again. "You helped a stranger, refused corruption, and acted with compassion even when it cost you. But before we decide, you must face one last question." Eli nodded slowly. "What question?" "If given the power to change your world," the leader said, "would you use it for yourself or for others?" Eli thought for a long time. The earth below looked small and fragile. He remembered his friends at work, the people struggling in the streets, and the quiet kindness that sometimes went unnoticed. "I'd use it to help others," he said at last, "but not by ruling them or changing who they are, just by giving them a chance to be better." The council members exchanged soft pulses of light as if speaking silently. Then the leader said, "And if that help brings you no reward, would you still do it?" Eli smiled faintly. "I didn't walk Leora home for a reward." For a moment there was silence. Then the chamber filled with soft golden light. Leora stepped forward, her face glowing with quiet joy. "The decision is made," said the leader. "Humanity shall be welcomed into the Aurelian Federation." "The test is complete." Eli stood frozen. "Wait, me? You mean—" "Because of what I did?" Leora nodded gently. "Yes, you reminded us that even among chaos, kindness survives. You proved that humanity is ready, not because of power or knowledge, but because of heart." As she spoke, the platform rose higher, revealing a vast view of stars. The earth shimmered below and new lights appeared across its surface, signals being sent, connections being formed. Eli felt his chest tighten with emotion. "So what happens now?" "You become the first human ambassador," Leora said softly. "You will learn from us and we will learn from you. The path between our worlds begins with one simple act, a man walking a stranger home." He laughed quietly. "That sounds too simple for something so big." "The greatest things often are," she replied. For the next few hours, Eli spoke with the council. They asked about humanity, about hope, fear, love, and struggle. He didn't speak like a leader. He spoke like a man who believed in small kindnesses, in helping one another even when it was hard. When the meeting ended, Leora led him to the ship's observation deck. The stars outside were brighter than he had ever seen. "You did well," she said softly. "They trust your heart. That is not easy." Eli looked at her. "And what about you? Were you really testing me for them or for yourself?" Leora smiled, and for the first time her eyes looked almost human. "Perhaps both. My people have logic, but not warmth. You reminded me what connection feels like." They stood side by side in silence, watching the earth turn below them. After a while, Leora spoke again. "You may return home if you wish. But know this, and your name will be remembered among the stars." Eli smiled. "Home sounds good. But promise me something. What is that?" "Keep watching us. We'll make mistakes, but we'll learn. Don't give up on humans." Leora nodded. "I promise." Once more the golden light surrounded him. In a heartbeat, he was back in his apartment, standing by the same window. The city lights twinkled below and the sky looked a little brighter. He wondered if it had all been a dream. But when he looked down at his table, he saw the silver chip again, glowing gently, the same one he had found days ago. Now it showed new words. "Ambassador Eli Grant, humanity's first contact." He smiled quietly, feeling both amazed and calm. Outside, a gentle rain began to fall. Somewhere above the clouds, a faint golden light moved slowly across the sky, then vanished among the stars. Eli whispered to himself, "Guess I really did walk her home." He sat down, sipped his tea, and looked out at the sleeping city, unaware that a new chapter of human history had just begun.